Hello, and welcome to the first episode of David Karras Real Estate Solutions Luxury Market Analysis for San Antonio. We're going to be bringing you the latest insights, trends, and predictions for all the local housing markets. My name is David Karras, and I am the broker and owner of David Karras Real Estate Solutions. Today's episode, we're going to be diving into the luxury home market in San Antonio. We're going to take a look at the latest market data. We're going to analyze that data. We're going to look at trends, and we're going to provide you with some predictions on what buyers and sellers can see coming in April. Now let's start by breaking down the numbers so you can get a clear picture of where the market stands. Now, as of March 2026, we're seeing some significant movement in the San Antonio luxury market with a total of 443 listings being either pending, terminated, or sold. So a lot of volatility there. Here's a closer look at those categories. So of the 443 pending listings, there were 135, which indicates a strong interest in active buyer engagement in the market. Now, there is a lot of cancellations and terminations. So the cancellations are expireds, withdrawns, canceled. So there was 110 of them. And that's a big chunk of that. It's 25% of the 443 listings, essentially. So, which this indicates that sellers either took their homes off of the market or decided not to proceed with the sale. Could be for several reasons. They could have changed their mind. They could have got tired of the house sitting on the market. Just a plethora of things. Now, sold listings. This is pretty good. So of the 443 listings, 195 of them sold. So about 43% or so. So this speaks of continuing demand in the luxury market. So that's good. Now that we have a look at the price range for these homes, they are going to be ranging from $500,000 all the way up to $4.75 million. So the luxury market that I'm doing, it's $500,000 and up. Now, let's take a deeper dive into the sold listings because that's where everybody wants to know. Okay. So in order to get a better understanding of the market, we're going to go over the average sold price to list price, square footage, days on market, the whole gamut. So the average sold list price was $767,308, but the average sold price came in slightly lower at $744,749, which gives us a list price to sales price ratio of about 97%. So this suggests that homes are selling for pretty close to list price. Now this is the average. So there are some houses that have gone on the market that have sold really fast. They've gotten in multiple offer scenarios and they've made more than the list price. So that means that that number for list price to sold price for some other ones could be a little bit less than the 97%. Let's look at the average size of a home. The average size of the houses in the luxury market were 3,363 square feet. And they range from 1,165 square feet to 6,968 square feet. So big range there on properties. Now, days on market, this is what's important, right? Your list price is important, and it's going to dictate your days on market. So your days on market are going to give you an indication of how active your market is in your community. So the average days on market for sold houses was 83. The cumulative was 111. So sometimes when people take the house off the market, they'll take it off the market, they'll reset the days on market and put it back on. So that's why we have a cumulative time on market versus an average time. So that's what the two differences are right there. So this shows that while the market is moving relatively quickly, it's still common for luxury homes to remain on the market a bit longer than average here. So the average days on market in San Antonio is 82. As a whole. So the luxury market is sitting there pretty good with the regular market. Now let's look at seller's concessions. Seller's concessions are closing costs that the seller provides to the buyer as part of the contract. On average, sellers offered $10,706.16 in concessions. That suggests that buyers are asking for some flexibility in terms, especially in the higher price range. where the closing costs are going to be a little bit more. Maybe they're working on trying to buy down the rate a little bit to reduce their monthly mortgage payment. Now we're going to take a look at pending listings. The pending listings are where we can really see the current buyer demand. These homes have an average list price of $713,690 and are an average square foot size of 3,180 square feet. These homes spend an average of 72 days on the market with a cumulative of 92 days. So the pendings are a little bit less than the solds and withdrawns and things like that, which you can expect to see because we're throwing in some of the withdrawn, cancellations, and expireds. So this is pretty good because the average days on market are about 10 days below the average days on market in San Antonio. Now, with a cumulative days of 92, this data suggests that while buyers are still engaging, many are taking their time to make decisions, spending a little longer in the decision-making process than the sold listings were. Now, interestingly, the terminated listings, we're seeing an average list price of $847,935 for the terminated listings. Now, with these homes, they average 3,143 square feet and spend about 131 days on market before being taken off. The cumulative days for terminated listings reach all the way up to 176, which I would expect because if you're going to list a house and it's priced high and you're not getting a lot of activity and the days on market creep up to 90 or so, they take it off the market, they refresh the days on market and come back up to another 80 or so. So that's where we're getting that 176 as a high for the cumulative average. So that means there's a lot of houses that are going in there and recycling their days on market. Now, what can we take from this? It seems that the homes in this category may have been priced too high for their market segment or did not meet buyers' expectations in terms of features or location or condition. Now, sellers might have overestimated what their market could bear, and that can ultimately lead to longer days on market and then them getting frustrated and pulling them off the market. Now, active listings. So we're going to we looked at the pendings, we looked at the solds. The solds were a little bit lower than the pendings, which means that there's more activity coming, which is good. And I would expect to see that because December, January, February are kind of the slower times of the year. March, things start to pick up. April, they pick up a little bit more. May, June, and July, they're pretty busy. August, they start to taper down. So as of today, there are 1,296 active listings in the luxury market in San Antonio. They range from $500,000 all the way up to $7 million. Now, these homes vary in size from 1,144 square feet all the way up to 1,356 square feet. Now, keep in mind, these are single-family detached residential houses. I'm not getting into condos or anything like that. These are just single-family detached houses. Now, this includes properties with an average of 2 to 6 bedrooms, 2 to 6 bathrooms, and the days on market for these listings range from 1 day, which because we include new, all the way up to 987 days on market. That's a lot of time on the market. Now, this shows a large variance in how long properties are taking to sell. That's because San Antonio is huge. We're looking at the different price ranges. So you can have an acre house that's $700,000 out in some of the country area versus a $2 million house in the Dominion or something like that, Chavano Park. So the properties can vary. You can have a small house on a lot of land. So that's giving you the bigger idea of the luxury market. We're also seeing some interesting activity. 22 homes went back on market. Now, when they go back on market, it means a couple different things. One, through the feasibility time, there are some issues with an inspection, and the buyer and the seller couldn't come to terms on how to move forward. They were butting some heads, and they terminated the contract. That listing went back on the market. Another thing that could happen is you get down the road, it could have gone pending, and then the buyer lost their financing. They could have lost their job, which causes them to lose their financing. You just never know, and they had to go back on market. So that's what the back on markets are. So 22 out of 1,200, not that bad. 218 homes have had price changes. So that's about 20% of the homes have had price changes. Now that data is only 10 days old. We had 30 days to work with, but it can't go back 30 days looking for price changes in the MLS. So that data is a little bit skewed. So you're probably going to see at least 450 to 500 would be my estimation for the month of March for price changes. Now, the reason why we're having price changes are houses are sitting on the market longer. The sellers are getting frustrated, so they're dropping the price of trying to entice a buyer in. Builders could be dropping their home prices. A lot of builders everywhere are dropping their home prices. There's a community in Marion that I just recently went through with a client of mine, and over the past 4 months, out of 5 houses that they've had listed, all 5 of them had price drops. One was $25,000. The rest of them were $100,000 and above. One of them went down $163,000. In my community, my neighbor's house that's on the market by a builder, they just dropped it $50,000. So there's a lot of price changes that are going on, and it's creating a trickle-down effect, because what we've seen in the community that I have a client in, the builders have dropped their price. Our competitive houses have dropped their price. So we've had to drop our price to remain competitive with the builder and our pre-owned competition. So it's just a trickle-down effect. So there are 100 homes that are currently under contract in their feasibility time. So that's not too bad. It's about 8% of the homes are currently under contract in the option period. Now, the option period is the time where they're going to go do their inspections. They're going to secure the last little bit of financing that they need to or whatever. And then once they get out of that feasibility time, it'll switch over to pending. Now, when we're comparing new homes to resale homes, here's a breakdown for that. So new homes, the average new home price was $910,750 with an average size of 3,335 square feet. Resale homes, the active resale home listed price was $873,497 with an average size of 3,257 square feet. Now we're seeing that new homes are commanding a slightly higher price due to their modern amenities and new build features. They got the warranties, the new home smell, all of that. Now, resale homes are a bit more affordable, but still maintain a relatively high value due to prime locations and features that many properties don't offer. Like in Chavano Park, you're going to have different features there than you would the Dominion, which you're going to have different features there than you would like in Monte Vista, which you're going to have different features than if you're having an acre out into the countryside, or you're sitting on 10 acres with a nice little house. So the features are just a little bit different. And just like a new car, you can't get a pre-owned car for the same price as a new car. It just doesn't work that way. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a variance. So when you're listing your house may be newer, but if you're competing against new builds, you can't go price for price. You can't go toe for toe. It's just not going to work. Nobody's going to buy a used car for $50,000 when they can get a brand new one for $50,000. Now, with regards to what we can predict for April. So what buyers and sellers can expect for this month. Buyers, we're going to see a slightly slower market in terms of time on market, but properties are still moving at a solid pace. You can expect homes to spend between 70 and 110 days on market on average, with some homes still seeing price reductions. So if you're looking for luxury homes, now might be a good time to consider purchasing, especially looking for homes that have been on the market a little bit longer. You might find some buyer frustration there. They may be more apt to negotiate their price. A good way to figure out where they're at with their pricing strategies is to have your real estate agent look in the MLS and look at the pricing history and see, okay, they came on the market December 1st, January 1st, they did a price drop, February 1st, they did a price drop, March 1st, they did a price drop, April 1st, they did a price drop. If you're getting close to May, you can probably expect another price drop in May, right? So that can kind of help you with your strategy. Like, okay, they've gone down 10,000, 10,000, 20,000, 20,000. You might be able to get another 20,000 off in May if you can get that predictive analysis done and kind of see what their thought processes are. Now, for sellers, it's crucial to price your homes realistically. We tend to find ourselves, myself included, that we want to add some intrinsic value to the house. Like, we've done this to the house, and we've done that to the house, we've done this to the house. we've added this, whatever it is. Sometimes those additions, they cost us money, but they don't add money. Okay, so we need to look at listing our houses realistically from the start, because there's a chart that I have that if the price is high and the days on market go down, or well, they're going up, the value of your house is going down. Meanwhile, if you list it right and you sell, they correlate, and the longer the days on market, you tend to go down. So you end up losing more money by overpricing than you would pricing it right the first time. Like this, that's just value. That's not even looking at the ancillary expenses like utilities, insurance, HOA fees, security alarm, trash, cable, internet, all that goes into owning that house. The longer you own it, especially if it's vacant, you're still having to pay for that stuff. It's going to add more cost to you, shrinking your debt to income ratio, or your profit ratio from everything. Now, expect that buyer's concessions may be more common, so be prepared for negotiations. Yeah, I can probably almost, unless you get into a multiple offer situation, I can almost guarantee that you're probably going to get asked for some closing costs. You're probably going to get asked to cover a survey if you don't have a survey. You're probably going to get asked to pay for the title policy, and you're going to be asked to pay for the realtor commission for the buyer's agent. So those are pretty much expectations that you can count on. If you happen to avoid some of them, that's cool. But just know that if you're going in and you're getting an offer and they're asking for a lot of stuff, you might be able to negotiate some stuff. But if you kick back too much, they may go to your neighbor's house. So homes with updated features and prime locations will still see a strong demand. I'm not going to go into the community because it's pending right now, and I may have an opportunity to go back into that with my buyer. But there is a community that they put a house on the market and within 3 days had received multiple offers for it. If you're in that market to sell and there's not a lot of activity in your community, you might see a faster opportunity to get your house under contract. Whereas if you're in the Dominion, for example, right now, the last time I checked in the Dominion, which was about 3 days ago, there were 98 houses on the market. 98 houses. And then the Dominion, if you're familiar with the Dominion, they got everything from like $400,000 townhomes all the way up to multi-million dollar mansions. And then you got houses that are 20 years old, and they got houses that are 20 days old. It's just a big range in there, large lots to zero lot lines. So in there, you can expect to see a lot longer days on market. Now, that wraps up our breakdown of the San Antonio luxury market for March with April's predictions. So if you're a buyer looking for your dream home or seller preparing to list, keep this insight in mind and reach out to me, and we can do a free consultation and a market analysis to see exactly what activity is in your community, what we can predict for outcomes in the next coming months, and if you're looking to buy, what the activity in that community has been, and where we might be able to negotiate some pricing to help make your dream home a little bit more affordable.